Okay, I guess I'll call this a chat while stacking wood. This is wood that I had picked up from the wood yard up the street. And the reality is that a lot of this has rot in it and is overlinked. Stuff that I wouldn't want to sell to clients and have them disappointed. But there is still heat in it, and because of that, my choice is to try to utilize that heat for my home. And being that I have a fairly large opening in my wood stove, I can take things that are much larger and more of a challenge than what somebody would want in their stove. So because of that, a lot of these pieces tend to be quite sizable, but I know I can get them into my stove. And if I can't, I have a corded electric chainsaw in my basement that I could trim them down that last little bit so that they get in to the stove for that burning. I've found over the years that it seems that there is a very strong correlation between how much a piece of wood weighs and how much heat you get out of it, with the other factor being moisture. Once all the moisture is removed, or a significant amount, there can be a big difference depending on species of what wood you are burning. The joke is that with willow, you wait a few months after splitting it, and it gets lighter and lighter. Then as you put it on the fire, it vanishes very quickly, not providing much heat. Which doesn't mean that it is useless. It's a matter of figuring out when you need a lot of heat and when you don't, and using the appropriate wood during those times, or using much less wood. One of the times I'm referring to is this beginning and end of season. A lot of the times, in the beginning of a season, somebody wants some heat early in the morning, so they start a fire, and by 10 o'clock it's too hot, and so they regret ever starting the fire and wish it would go out quickly. Where a lighter wood that produces less heat may be good for that quick fire in the morning to take the chill off, but not keep the house overheated. Another aspect is in the middle of winter, especially in places that are poorly insulated or drafty, sometimes it seems that you cannot get enough heat. I had that issue on a few houses I have had, and so it was a situation where I tried to get as much heat during the day in the house to basically heat the structure of the house, and also use thermal banks such as the foundation and soil under the house. So by putting a wood stove in a basement, which most of the year is around 50 degrees because of the soil temperature, and with a wood stove heating that soil and keeping it in that elevated temperature throughout the winter, that thermal bank can rise up through the house during the cooler times and act as a reserve for when it is needed. More fuel may be used in those situations as opposed to having a bigger stove located up where the people are and where the heat is desired. But for me, it has worked out very well to have that heat in a basement, so that I guess what some would call the mess of wood, being that you're taking something from the outside, unmanufactured, grows in the soil, has tendencies of having dust, dirt, insects, fungus, not what many modern people want to deal with in their living arrangement. So by having that in an area that is separate from the living quarters, in this situation, a basement, can make life more pleasant. Whether it be male or female, we have our preferences, and sometimes honoring those and recognizing them can make life much more pleasant for everyone. I've been in places where, because of the wood and the mess that it caused, the relationship was, to put it lightly, challenging. But the economics were such that without the wood, the expense of living, the standard of living, yes, that's the term, would be much lower. Though, as they say, some heating is cheap, but if you don't have the employment situation to generate that income, but if you have the time to process the wood, you may be further ahead burning the wood and leaving the petroleum in the ground, or for somebody else to purchase. I prefer the lifestyle of doing what I enjoy, and working with wood is a thing I enjoy. Having more of that time for myself and less time spent serving an employer who I get a wage from, and from that wage is extracted a certain amount of taxes. In addition to the taxes, there is the expense of being an employee. Most people don't really consider that, and it is something that somebody who is paying attention to details can take advantage of. Your wardrobe, your transportation, other things that allow you or make you so you are in a situation where you are employable. Some occupations require various tools. Those can be written off for taxes, but only if you keep track of what you're spending on them. And so for me, I much rather decrease what I'm spending and try to provide for it in other ways. A lot of people like the term self-sufficiency, but the reality in almost every situation is none of us will ever be completely self-sufficient. We have doctors, we have military, we have scientists, we have manufacturers, all of these people providing things. Sometimes it is a greater skill and knowledge. Sometimes it is the ability to make something either we can't, or make something at a lower cost than we could. There are tools that make my life a whole lot easier, and by utilizing those tools and paying the people who made them, life works better for me. And now that I'm in my 60s, there are things that I can't do the way I used to. My energy level is less. My ability to continue doing a thing that in the past I would work into the night and turn on the lights so that I could keep doing a thing. And there were a few employers that were puzzled and upset with the situation that I was accustomed not to taking a lunch, but wanting them to pay me and allow me to work right through what others would be taking off. Because the way I saw it is it costs me a certain amount to get there, then I want to maximize my profitability for the expense. And most places have laws against such things, requiring breaks. The reality is, all of the ones I know, the half-hour lunch break is not paid time. So of the 8.5 hours that you need to be at that place, a half an hour or more you may be losing to this lunch break. But that is another advantage of being or working in a situation such as a cooperative, where as an owner and a worker, there are certain rules and systems that you can find the flexibility to work around, as opposed to being bound by the boss. I recognize that my situation is unique and not common, and at my age I don't expect it to be something I would find many places, and so I find it easier to continue what works for me than expect others to provide that for me. The world we live in will only do so much, and a lot of what is now has come on the backs of others, and some of those situations were abuses, similar to the phrase redneck. There is some history in that related to the South and the battles between the U.S. government trying to maintain the status quo of having energy, a abundant and reliable resource, being provided by companies and workers who were not being treated fairly and were being abused. Those workers would wear a red bandana traditionally and knew the hills and valleys around their home, and when the military was brought in, I guess more properly it would be the National Guard, to squelch the protests, the riots, the problems. And from my understanding, the rednecks, these locals, were whooping the hired guns of the coal companies. And it got so bad that they went to the government to resolve it, because if coal stopped, it would put the country at risk. And when these men who had been abused and unfairly treated came across government soldiers, National Guardsmen, that they had gone to war with, that they recognized as fellow soldiers in battles that they had fought previously in other locations, it became a undoable thing for them to continue the fight in many places. It is one thing for me to fight against someone who is against me that I don't know, and I have no and have had no interaction with before. But when it comes to a situation that I know this person, he has saved my life, he has done things that kept me alive, good, bad, or otherwise, arms were laid down and men surrendered in a fight that they may have continued for much longer. So that is my understanding of the term redneck. For some it's derogatory, for some it is a label of honor to be considered someone who is more in touch with the simpler things and some of the more traditional skills than throwing money at a problem so somebody else will make it go away. But that is very much off the track of where I started. So to try to bring things back, this woodshed in actuality was in a backyard, and the people had moved beyond wood. They no longer had children at home. It was an eyesore that in that situation, one of the couple did not like, and reminded them of the mess of wood fires. And I guess to try to help be sure that that era didn't return, they wanted it out of their yard. Fortunate for me, I was working with a man who had a crane on his truck, and I had brought my truck that day to that job, and when we were asked to remove it, it got picked up and set right in the back of my truck, and I brought it home. It's been working for me as a woodshed for I think it's about 5 years now. The roof is new. Well, I don't know if you could say new. The roof are pieces that I had scavenged from someone who was taking down a metal building and no longer wanted it. I have reinforced it because to move it from place to place, I was able to take my tractor, put the bucket inside the shed, and pick it up by the top or the roof and take it from place to place. One thing that I have attempted to do for the most part is to make the buildings on my property, since I'm not prepared to go for a building permit and build a larger structure at this time. I'm thinking more seriously of it as time goes by, but still, it's not a thing that was part of my plan. So having smaller buildings that I could relocate from place to place as my plans and ideas change. Initially, most of my yard was 3 to 4 feet lower than it is now, and there was the potential of runoff from the golf course behind me, which I have nothing against them as a business or people, but the chemicals that they use to maintain their grass are things that I really wasn't desirous of. And so by raising the level of my yard to the point where at the property line there would be a low point, so instead of things continuing onto my property, in a sense, my theory is that at the line it would go downward